Madeline Kahn, what a treasure of an actress. One of my all-time favorites. She was always giving 110%. From her debut in 1972's What's Up Doc to her final major film 1999's Judy Berlin, Madeline Kahn was always a force of nature, so funny, so gifted, with 2 Oscar nominations to her name for 1973's Paper Moon and 1974's Blazing Saddles. I don't know about you, but I think Madeline Kahn should have received 3 Oscar nominations in her career, her 3rd for her ingenious, memorable, absolutely phenomenal comedic performance in 1985's Clue as Mrs. White.
Flames on the side of my face.
Why do I think she deserved an Oscar nomination for that performance, and why was she snubbed? Hey guys, it's Brian. Welcome to the awards contender. You seem to like my first video in this series, Oscar Snubs, all about Joan Cusack and Addams Family Values. Well, I have another amazing comedic performance to talk about today, Madeline Kahn as Mrs. White in Clue. This was going to be a tough performance, a tough movie to get in at the Oscars, I know, but I still think to this day that would have been one of the most inspired Oscar nominations ever. Like in any category, in any decade, I think Madeline Kahn getting into Best Supporting Actress for Clue would have aged extremely well. Now, like in the last video, I'm going to give you the top 5 reasons why she wasn't nominated and the 5 reasons why she should have been. Like the 5 reasons why Madeline Kahn should have 3 Oscar nominations to her name, not just 2. So let's begin with why she didn't get in. What were the 5 main reasons why Madeline Kahn getting in at the Oscars and Best Supporting Actress for Clue probably wasn't going to happen? Reason number 1 was the genre bias of this being a comedy murder mystery, especially one based on a board game. I don't think in 85, which is a year at the Oscars where most of what gets in the acting categories and director and picture are very serious dramas, right? You see that a lot in the 80s. Only occasionally will they put in a comedic performance at the Oscars that decade. And you look at 85 and like, was there room for Clue? A movie based on the Parker Brothers board game that has a lot of like slapstick and goofy moments and isn't in any way an important film. You know, it's very silly and stupid, and that's what we all love about it, of course. But when we're talking about the Oscars, a movie like Clue, which has a big ensemble of actors like trying to solve these murders, one crazed comedic scene after another for 90 minutes, that doesn't scream Academy Awards, right? So it makes sense to me, even though the movie did open in December of 1985, so it would have been on awards voters' minds. It's not like this came out in February or March or something. It opened in December, so you could point to that and say, well, maybe it could have gotten into like art direction or something, you know, like one technical category, because the movie looks great. The sets of that film is fantastic, and the ensemble of actors, like if best casting was around in the 80s at the Oscars, Clue would have made a really cool contender there, but like for an individual nomination, that was going to be tricky for this movie. Number 2 is that Clue got mixed to negative reviews from critics and did not do well at the box office. Obviously, over the decades, Clue has become a major cult favorite. It is one of my favorite movies of all time. And it's like, wow, the critics didn't go for it at the time and audiences didn't show up. And it's like, why? Why didn't people embrace this amazing movie? It's so good. The main reason I think that critics hated on it, that audiences didn't really show up, was this really weird marketing ploy Paramount Studios did where they said, we're going to release this film with 3 different versions. And there's going to be an ending A, an ending B, an ending C. And depending on what theater you go to in December of 1985, you will get one of the 3 endings that was shot and edited for this movie. The idea being, of course, that, hey, we'll get people to pay to see this movie in the theater 3 times, you know, we'll make a ton of money. And what happened was that kept audiences away. they got confused. They were like, well, which version do I see? I don't want to see the wrong one. I think it got so complicated, do I go to version A or version C or whatever, that they just chose to stay away. And so even before the movie opened, Paramount put a stain on Clue, and it couldn't find an audience until it reached home video a few months later. But even going beyond that, the reviews were pretty scathing from critics. They just didn't care for it. Roger Ebert said, "Since none of these events have the slightest significance, the filmmakers have attempted to make Clue into a screwball comedy with lots of throwaway gags and one-liners. Some of these moments of comedy are funny, most are not." And one critic singled out Madeline Kahn's performance in a positive light, but then went negative ultimately. The writer said Madeline Kahn can be funny with the raise of an eyebrow or an inflection in her voice. She gets off some droll moments just by talking. It doesn't matter what she says. But come on, a whole movie of this stuff? The harder everyone works, the less funny it becomes. And so for a comedy that's this silly, that doesn't get good reviews, that doesn't do well at the box office, it was going to be hard, right, for Clue to get in at the Oscars. Reason number 3 is that Madeline Kahn did not do any Oscar campaigning of any kind for Clue. She barely even publicized the movie, at the premiere. I found this really interesting piece from a newspaper article in January of 1986. A gossip columnist was asked, "We enjoyed the delightful performance of Madeline Kahn as a mysterious brunette in the movie comedy mystery Clue. How come there haven't been any interviews in the press in which she discusses this picture?" Their answer was, apparently she feels her role hasn't been given sufficient prominence and consequently hasn't been going out of her way to help promote the film. Madeline was finally prevailed upon to attend an opening night party at which she reluctantly and briefly posed for a tabloid. Breaking away, she commented to the photographer, "That's enough, thank you very much, I guess." So at the time, at least, I don't think Madeline Kahn believed she had made a great movie. She might have thought Clue was a total turkey. Especially when it opens and doesn't do well at the box office, she probably thought, oh, that's a nothing film. It's definitely not going to be one of the best comedies on my filmography. That's maybe what she was thinking at the time. So going into January and February, the idea of her campaigning for awards nominations, that wasn't going to happen. I mean, if you dig into some YouTube clips, there are a couple of interviews of Kahn at the time talking about Clue showing up to its premiere. She's there, she's not avoiding the movie, but she didn't exactly publicize it in a way where she was looking to get an awards nomination for that performance. Reason number 4 is that everybody is great in Clue, not just Madeline Kahn, the entire cast. And I do think you could make the argument in Best Supporting Actress also for Leslie Ann Warren as Miss Scarlet. Leslie Ann Warren, who had just received an Oscar nomination 3 years before for Victor Victoria in Best Supporting Actress, she is also dynamite in Clue. So funny, so fresh and surprising. She's also really, really good. So if there was going to be an Oscar nomination for one of its cast members, it might not have been obvious at the time, oh, it's clearly Madeline Kahn. You could say, well, what about Leslie Ann Warren, or Eileen Brennan, or Tim Curry? Tim Curry is freaking amazing in that movie, right? So because there's this giant ensemble of actors, and they're all doing really good, really funny stuff, it would not have been clear, I think, who gets in, who gets the Oscar nomination. It's not like Madeline Kahn is giving the performance of the year in a comedy and everybody else in the movie is just okay. Everybody's really great, and so it wouldn't have been clear who do we give the Oscar nomination. And reason number 5 is that Madeline Kahn in Clue, no matter how great she is, how funny she is, it's not exactly a rich, three-dimensional character. Mrs. White does not build to something dramatic or especially surprising in the third act that really allows her to change the way she's playing the character. As much as I adore Madeline Kahn in Clue, she does play the character at the same level pretty much the entire movie, and that's what makes it so great. That's why it's so fun. But when it comes to an Oscar nomination, even when I was talking about Joan Cusack in Addams Family Values, that's another very funny comedic performance, but she does play different shades in that. There's different levels to her performance throughout the movie, whereas Madeline Kahn in Clue is basically doing the same thing all the way through. So you could argue that, well, Brian, it's not really like an Oscar-worthy performance, even though she's very fun in Clue. And one of her very best moments in the film, the flames scene, was not a part of every version of the movie. That's in ending C, the final version. Like, some people went to see Clue and saw the ending where it's Miss Scarlet as the killer or Mrs. Peacock as the killer, and they don't get Madeline Kahn's iconic flames on the side of my face that absolutely inspired little improvised monologue she does. So that part's not even in every version at the end of 1985. So because of all 5 of these reasons, like, it wasn't going to happen. I will be honest with you. Joan Cusack, Addams Family Values, I do think there was a small path to her maybe getting an Oscar nomination for that movie. Madeline Kahn for Clue, like, that was like 99.9999% never going to happen. But especially now, 40 years since the release of Clue, I think Madeline Kahn deserved that Oscar nomination. I think it should have happened. Here are my 5 reasons why Madeline Kahn should have gotten into Best Supporting Actress at the Academy Awards for Clue. Reason number 1 is that she is comic genius in that movie. She is, for me, the standout of the cast, even though I do love everybody in it. And it's like everything she does, every time she's on screen, whether she's speaking or not speaking, every moment of Madeline Kahn in that movie is absolute comedy heaven from moment to moment. I mean, every time I watch Clue, I'm enjoying the cast and the story and the comedy and all of it, but I always fixate on the Madeline Kahn performance as Mrs. White, because even when she's in the background and she's just reacting to things that people are doing and saying, she's very funny. She is always right there in the moment. She's never phoning anything in. She's there in the space with all of these talented actors, and she never wants to be upstaged. And then when she gets those moments where she's talking, revealing things about her past husbands, RIP, right? Her line deliveries, especially about her husbands, is like, oh my God. It is so funny. I have watched this movie 30, 40 times, maybe more, and I am always on the floor laughing at Madeline Kahn, at what she says, how she says it, her very matter-of-fact, yeah, I have a husband who was an illusionist, he disappeared, and he wasn't a very good illusionist. It's just it's so good. Everything about Madeline Kahn in Clue is comedy brilliance at the highest level, Taking something, a character that in the hands of a different actress might not have been much, it might have been just okay. Even with that really sharp writing, that comedy dialogue, in the hands of Madeline Kahn, it is amazing with a capital A every step of the way. And I just think her approach to the character, her look, it's a different look than we usually see Madeline Kahn with the short black hair, and her line readings and some of the physical comedy she does from scene to scene. And I just think what she's doing in that movie was worthy of an Oscar nomination. Reason number 2 is that Madeline Kahn in the 70s got 2 Oscar nominations in Best Supporting Actress. She was a previous nominee, not just for 1 movie, but for 2. She got back-to-back nominations in the mid-70s, the first for Paper Moon, which is a comedic performance, but a little bit more serious. Like that scene where she's talking to Tatum O'Neal on that hill, there's an element of sadness to her performance in that movie. I think that helped her get into the Oscars in the same category with Tatum O'Neal. She lost to her co-star, which is still just, really dumb to this day that Tatum O'Neal won in Best Supporting Actress, being in every frame of Paper Moon. I think Madeline Kahn said at the time, this isn't fair, right? She is the lead actress of this movie. I am the supporting actress. I should be the winner for this movie in this category. That makes sense to me. And then you have one of the most inspired acting Oscar nominations of all time, when the following year, Madeline Kahn gets into Best Supporting Actress at the Oscars again for Blazing Saddles. The Academy nominated Kahn for Blazing Saddles. I just think that is so cool, especially since that movie opened in like February of 1974. That wasn't a Christmas release. It wasn't in the fall. Like, they had to wait more than a year and then put Kahn in again for Blazing Saddles, like over Young Frankenstein, which he's also really great in. That also came out at the end of 74. I wonder if because she's so memorable in both of those movies, they both came out the same year, that the Academy said, well, we just nominated her for Paper Moon, let's put her in again. Which movie do we nominate her for? Like, the bigger, more memorable performance, you could argue, is in Blazing Saddles. She's got that very good song and dance number early in the film, so that makes sense to me why she got in for that film and not Young Frankenstein. But wow, slapstick comedy performances very rarely get in at the Oscars. So that they nominated Kahn for Blazing Saddles, that shows me that they had an adoration for the actress, that they were open to giving her nominations for very slapsticky comedic performances. If she can get in for Blazing Saddles, why can't she get in for Clue 11 years later? I think that would have been a really cool and inspired third Oscar nomination for Madeline Kahn. If she had never been recognized at the Oscars before, if Madeline Kahn didn't have anything, then that would have been weird for her to get in for like a one-off performance in Clue. That would have been unusual. But because they gave her 2 nominations in Supporting Actress in the 70s, one for a slapstick performance, because of that, I feel like they should have looked closer at her performance in Clue. Reason number 3 is that for Best Supporting Actress at the Oscars 1985, there is room. This is not a stacked category where you have 5 performances that simply have to be there. I like the winner, Angelica Houston, for Prizzi's Honor. That's really good. Meg Tilly is fantastic, and Agnes of God, that nomination can stay as well. But then you get to the other 3, and there is wiggle room. I'm not going to say like one has to go, but Amy Madigan for Twice in a Lifetime, Amy Madigan, who we are talking about now as a potential Oscar nominee for Weapons in Supporting Actress, 40 years ago, she got in one time for a movie nobody remembers really. A movie that only got into this one category at the Oscars. It's not like in picture and screenplay and stuff. It's only here in Supporting Actress. And she's solid in that movie, but it's not a performance, a film that anybody's talking about now. So I do think that nomination could go. And then you have 2 women nominated for The Color Purple in Supporting Actress. They're both really good in that. I don't think both of them had to get in. Oprah Winfrey, this is her one acting Oscar nomination. That's kind of cool. And if I had to choose, I would keep Winfrey, I think. Margaret Avery is also solid in The Color Purple. I like that performance. Did she have to get an Oscar nomination for that? I don't know. I don't think she had to get in there. And it just would have been nice for one really memorable comedic performance to be recognized in Supporting Actress that year. Madeline Kahn recognized for Clue. Boy, would that have aged really well. Reason number 4 is that the Academy did recognize a comedic performance in the supporting actor category. I mean, you could argue it's like comedy and drama and fantasy, but the winner for Best Supporting Actor for 1985 at the Oscars is Don Amici for Cocoon. And that's kind of a light ensemble comedy fantasy movie. It's not a very important film. It's not overly dramatic or serious or anything. Don Amici gets in for that. He's not nominated at the Globes. He doesn't have any big precursor nominations or wins. Cocoon is only recognized in one other technical category. It's not like Cocoon is in picture in a bunch of top categories or anything. Don Amici gets in for that in supporting actor, and he wins. He wins the Oscar for that performance in that pretty lightweight movie. So it's like, well, they were open to giving Don Amici the win in supporting actor. Why couldn't there be room in supporting actress for at least one comedic performance like Madeline Kahn in Clue. Even in the 1980s, the Academy will surprise us with a rare comedic performance getting in. I think about 2 years later, 2 years after 85, we get Anne Ramsey nominated in Best Supporting Actress for Throw Mama from the Train. That is an inspired comedic acting Oscar nomination. It's the only nomination for Throw Mama from the Train. That's a very broad comedic performance by Anne Ramsey in that film, starring Billy Crystal and Danny DeVito, and she got into Supporting Actress at the Oscars. Why not Madeline Kahn 2 years earlier for Clue? And the fifth and final reason, the last reason Madeline Kahn deserved to get into the Oscars for this amazing comedy film, it is, of course, this.
I hated her so much. Flames.
Oh my frickin' God. Her improvised monologue at the end of this movie explaining to everybody why she killed Yvette. It is one of the greatest comedic moments of any movie ever made. I quote that all the time. When I think about Clue, I think about this scene. Madeline Kahn in this moment, just annihilating that monologue, and to think she improvised that on the day, on the sets. It's too much. It's too much for me. She is so funny all throughout that movie, and especially in this moment at the end. Comedy perfection. So yeah, Madeline Kahn, I have always adored this actress. She will always be one of my favorites. Whenever she pops up in a movie, whether I've seen it before or it's brand new to me, I get very happy and excited. Everything she did from the 70s to the 90s, it's not just Paper Moon and Blazing Saddles and Clue that she's amazing in, right? She has quite the run throughout the 1970s, starting with What's Up Doc, which she's very funny in. I just watched a few months ago The Adventure of Sherlock Holmes' Smarter Brother, starring and directed by Gene Wilder. It's not a great film, but she is great in it. You have 1977's High Anxiety, she's really good in that. And then all throughout the 80s and 90s, she pops up in television and movies, always doing good work. Her final film performance, 1999's Judy Berlin. That would have been also an inspired posthumous Oscar nomination because it's a really interesting against type performance for her. But if I had to pick my favorite performance ever by Madeline Kahn, it will always be Mrs. White in Clue. This is one of my favorite movies of all time. I can't wait to watch it again and again and again. Madeline Kahn, we miss you. And I do think you deserved a third Oscar nomination for Clue. Thanks so much for watching and subscribing, and let me know in the comments below, what do you think of Madeline Kahn in Clue? Do you think she should have gotten another Oscar nomination for this wild, wonderful performance? I'll see you next time at the Awards Contender.